At Booker T. Washington High in Richmond, Virginia, a new school counselor named Miss Rena shows up just before midterms. She's warm, knows all the students' slang, and seems to really listen. Kids trust her. Teachers love her. But when a sophomore goes missing, and the last adult she confided in was Miss Rena, an off-duty school resource officer, starts digging. Turns out, Miss Rena has no record in the school district's HR system. No fingerprints on file. And the ID she uses belongs to a woman who died in Detroit 5 years ago. Who is she really? And what does she want with these kids? Before we uncover today's case, a quick reminder. If you haven't subscribed yet, now is the time. Hit that subscribe button and turn on the notification bell so you never miss a single clue, twist, or breakthrough in the stories to come. Now, let's dive into the case. The rain hit the windows like it had something to prove. Richmond didn't usually get cold this early in October, but that morning carried a chill. Not just in the air, but in Tamera Bolden's bones. She sipped stale coffee from a vending machine paper cup, watching the hallway monitors from the booth just past the metal detectors. Kids filed in with hoods half off and earbuds halfway in. It was Monday. Everyone moved like life owed them sleep. That's when she saw her, smiling like the sunrise, brown curls pinned up in a loose bun, tan peacoat that didn't match the budget most counselors wore. Miss Rena, the new hire from central office. "Morning, Officer Bolden," Rena said, pausing just long enough for eye contact. Her voice was soft, like someone who learned to speak in church. Polite, sweet, controlled. Tamera nodded slowly, offering her the same expression she gave every staff member she didn't yet trust. Half smile, no teeth. "Mom." Rena's heels clicked away down the hall toward the counseling wing. Tamera reached for the staff roster, taped next to the cameras. Ran her finger down the column marked New Contract. Miss Rena wasn't listed. Not yet, Tamera told herself. Probably a delay in HR paperwork. That kind of thing happened all the time in this district. Still, something prickled. That same instinct she'd carried back when she wore a badge before internal. Affairs made her the fall woman for exposing evidence tampering in a homicide case no one wanted reopened. That gut told her something didn't match. By third period, it started again. A student in the lunch line refused to hand over her phone, claiming someone named Miss Rena told her she could keep it for mental health purposes. Another freshman said Miss Rena let him skip English to rest his emotions. Tamera didn't mind the kids trusting someone God knows they needed it, but the way Rena moved, the way she gathered students like secrets, it felt surgical, and it got real. Her phone buzzed at 3:14 p.m., just as the final bell rang. Text from Coach Dante. "Yo, Tamera. You seen Nia? Her mom been calling up here all day? Ain't nobody seen her since homeroom." Tamera blinked hard. Nia Freeman. 10th grade. Smart. Withdrawn. Always walked with her hoodie up and her binder clutched tight to her chest. She came in that morning, Tamera remembered scanning her in, but she never walked out. 30 minutes later, Tamera was in the security office scrubbing through camera feeds. Their timestamp 10:22 Mia steps, out of class, alone, head down. She walks toward the east hallway. She pauses, looks around, and a figure steps into frame. Rena. They speak. Rena gently places a hand on Nia's shoulder and tilts her head like she's asking something soft, something careful. Nia nods. The two walk down the hall together, and the camera cuts out. One feed goes black. The next camera in the sequence hall, 2E, is also frozen. The one after that works fine, but there's no sign of either of them. It's like the footage was deleted mid-step. Tamera stared at the screen. Her pulse ticked in her ears. It wasn't just a glitch. You don't get 3 cameras to black out in perfect sequence without knowing exactly how the system works. She sat back in the chair. The plastic creaked beneath her. "Who the hell are you, Rena?" Tamera Bolden's hands hovered over the keyboard. She hadn't touched this security system's backend since they demoted her from full-time facilities staff to overnight security watch. She wasn't supposed to have admin clearance anymore, but she'd kept a backup login. Old habits die slow. She keyed in her badge override and slipped past the standard GUI into raw system logs. Whoever cut those camera feeds knew what they were doing. No sloppy timestamp deletion, no obvious export trail. Just dead zones, 10:24 to 10:36 a.m. 6 hallway cams, 1 blind spot, 2 neat, 2 professional. She clicked open the raw data audit, cross-referencing internal IP addresses. That's when she found an access point from a device labeled R. Adler, A3 that didn't belong to any faculty laptop or issued terminal. R. Adler, Rena Adler. She leaned closer. The IP showed usage inside the school network, on the third-floor staff server closet, which was supposed to be locked. Tamera exhaled slowly. Her old heartbeat detective mode was back, the one that came alive when someone started hiding girls. By 5:40 p.m., the building was nearly empty. Custodial crews were wiping down lunch tables. Fluorescent lights buzzed like dying insects. Tamera moved through the halls quietly, badge clipped low, no radio. She didn't want this going over school channels. Not yet. 3rd floor. She jimmied the utility closet with her old brass key 1 they forgot to collect when she got bumped down to nights. Inside, mop sink, conduit wiring, an old locked server cage. And there it was, tucked behind a loose panel 1 portable hard drive, zip-tied to the Ethernet rack. No school sticker, no inventory tag. She slid gloves on and removed it carefully, wrapping it in her hoodie. That was evidence now. She'd drive it out herself. No chain of custody she could trust inside this school. As she exited the closet, she caught a flicker of movement down the dim hallway. Someone standing at the far end. Too far to make out the face, but the posture, calm, familiar. Rena. Then she turned and disappeared through the stairwell door, heels clicking lightly against the tile. Tamera didn't follow. Not yet. She drove straight to her cousin's house on the south side, the only IT guy she trusted more than herself. Jeremiah, ex-Navy cryptography, now worked from home, fixing systems for the county library and doing side jobs for legal offices who wanted things looked at quietly. By 7:15 p.m., they had the drive connected to an isolated tower in his basement, air-gapped and booted into sandbox mode. "Damn," he muttered, "encrypted. But whoever did this ain't using school tech. This ain't Cisco. This is like ... field gear. Military adjacent. See this algorithm loop? That's NS adapted. You can crack it?" she asked. He didn't answer right away. Then he leaned back, jaw tightening. "There's a file in here labeled Phase 3 Harvest 2.0. Tam, what exactly did you find?" Tamera stared at the screen, at the strange directory names. One labeled Behavioral Patterns. Another called Extraction Candidates. Some folders had photos, blurry JPEGs of student IDs, locker locations, bathroom entry logs. Girls, just girls. And a note on each. Compliant, resistant, emotional volatility, high. She closed her eyes for half a second, then opened them and nodded. "Make me copies. Hide one, bury the other." The next morning, the front of the school looked like nothing had happened. Teachers laughed in the staff lounge. Announcements crackled through the PA, and Miss Rena? She stood at the corner of the cafeteria again, her smile warm, her blouse perfectly pressed, asking a freshman boy if he was sleeping okay at home. She looked up and met Tamara's eyes from across the room, held her gaze, smiled deeper, like a challenge. Tamera forced her face to stay neutral, even as her fingers curled into fists at her sides. Something wicked was happening at Booker T. Washington High, and it had access cards. The copy of the hard drive sat in Tamera's glove compartment, wrapped in a hollowed-out Bible cover. She wasn't being poetic, just cautious. She hadn't carried a weapon in years, but that drive? It was more dangerous than a pistol if the wrong person saw it. By Wednesday morning, she'd memorized everything Jeremiah could decode from the files. Timestamps, facial scan logs, even mapped routes through the building that didn't appear on any student-accessible blueprint. Whoever Rena was, she wasn't working alone. She was embedded. And worse, she had access to pre-expulsion psychological reports going back 3 years. Files only central office or behavioral contractors could reach. Tamera entered the main office under the guise of needing new visitor phones. She scanned the wall-mounted staff board again. Still no Rena Adler listed, not even as a temp. "Hey, Denise," Tamera called to the head secretary, a tired black woman in her 60s, who knew every hallway and every broken heater in the building. Denise looked up from a pile of detention slips. HMM? That new counselor Rena. You ever get her file?" Denise sighed. "They said she came from some pilot program. Behavioral reinforcement team or something. Straight from district HR. You get that in writing?" "Nope, just a voice call. Same guy who handled that mentorship rollout last year." Tamera nodded slowly. That mentorship rollout? It got quietly buried after 2 kids went missing over spring break. Denise leaned in and lowered her voice. "Between you and me? That woman gives me cold hands. The way she watched people." That afternoon, Tamera made her move. She waited until the last bell rang, then slipped into the counselor's office hallway. Most of the team had left for the day, papers in hand, car keys jangling, not a care in the world. But Rena's light? Still on. Tamera stood outside the door, hand hovering over the knob. Then she heard it. Inside, Rena wasn't alone. "No, it's too early for full pull. I need at least 3 more days." The Freeman girl was a fluke. Her mother called CPD directly. No buffer. A pause. Then, "Do not threaten me with Langley protocols. I was vetted twice." Tamara's heart froze. "Langley?" She heard the rustle of a bag being zipped, a creak of a chair, then footsteps headed to the door. She moved, fast ducking into the janitor's closet and pulling it closed just as Rena exited her office. Through the slats, Tamera watched her pass. No phone in hand, no panic, just deliberate movement. Like she already knew the walls had ears. Later that night, Tamera pulled her old badge from the back of her closet. Dusty, cracked at the edges. Still had her photo, the one before the stress lines came in. She stared at it, then at the hard drive in the Bible cover, then back at her reflection in the mirror. "Time to stop playing rent-a-cop," she muttered. "We going full detective." At sunrise the next morning, she drove out to Cornerstone Behavioral Systems, a name on half the encrypted files. She parked across the street and waited, watching employees file in. Most wore scrubs. A few wore suits. One woman looked up from her phone, and Tamara's breath caught. It was the same woman who met Rena outside the counseling office last month. She wore a name tag now, Darla, administrative analyst, but Tamera remembered her face. She'd claimed to be a rep from CPS, had shown up when a senior student tried to report sexual harassment from a coach. The case disappeared. So did the student. Tamera scribbled a note to herself. Same face. Multiple roles. Federal clearance? Then she circled a word at the bottom of her notebook. Harvest. What did that word mean? And why did all the files include medical codes? That night, Tamera returned to the school. Alone. Jeremiah had given her a portable RF scanner chip off the books. He said if anything was transmitting out of that building, she'd catch it. She swept past the lockers, lights humming above her head. She moved toward the counselor's wing again, her scanner in hand, silent, lights blinking red. Halfway past the wellness room, it pinged. She turned. It wasn't coming from Rena's office. It was coming from the student rec room locked after 5 p.m. per school rules. She jimmied the latch, slipped inside. What she found made her stomach turn. A hidden transmitter embedded inside the ceiling vent. Tiny, modern, active, streaming something. She followed the cable and there, tucked inside an old supply cabinet, was a desktop tower that didn't belong. No school barcode, no name. Just one live feed showing a map of student movement. Real time. Heat signatures, facial recognition pings. Behavioral flags. Targeted profiles of black and brown girls, aged 13 to 17. Tamera shut the cabinet and backed away slowly. She wasn't up against a fake counselor. She was standing inside a pilot surveillance experiment, one designed to track, label, and potentially extract vulnerable girls from public schools. And Rena? Rena was just the front. The real question now was, who else inside the district knew? Tamera sat in her car under a rusted floodlight outside the district building. Rain tapped the windshield like fingers drumming out a countdown. She hadn't slept in 36 hours. The kind of tired that sits deep in your bones. The kind that reminds you why people give up. But she wasn't giving up. Not when the Freeman girl was still missing. Not when black girls were being labeled harvest candidates and nobody said a word. Not when Rena smiled like she already knew how this story ends. She hit send on the encrypted email from Jeremir's laptop, every decrypted file, every heat map, every name. She sent it to 3 people, a former reporter from the Richmond Free Voice, an attorney she once drank coffee with during a wrongful conviction trial, and a civil rights investigator in D.C. who still owed her a favor. Then she slid the burner phone back into her pocket and walked through the front doors of Booker T. Washington High one last time. The halls were quiet at 7 a.m. teachers prepping lessons, janitors mopping without a word. Tamera moved fast. She knew Rena came early. Always did. The predator routine disguised as professionalism. But today would be different. She found Rena in the wellness room, sorting boxes of school supplies she probably never requested. "Morning," Tamera said, shutting the door behind her. Rena looked up, still wearing that gentle, empty smile. "Officer Bolden, you look tired." Tamera stared at her. "Where's Nia Freeman?" Rena didn't blink. "I don't know who that is." Tamera stepped forward. "You filed a fake CPS report to clear out her home. You hijacked the security feed. You called someone in Langley to clean it up when she didn't make it to the van in time." Rena tilted her head like she was admiring a slow child trying to do algebra. "You were always too smart to stay a night guard, Miss Bolden." That was the first real sentence she spoke. And the last straw. Before Rena could move, the door burst open. 2 uniformed Richmond PD officers entered, followed by a third man in a gray jacket with DOJ stitched on the sleeve. "Rena Adler, you're being taken into federal custody under suspicion of unlawful surveillance, kidnapping, and conspiracy to traffic minors across state lines." Tamera didn't flinch. She'd called the agent last night, gave him everything, told him if he didn't act now, she'd go public and take the heat to every single morning news show in America. They cuffed Rena gently, as if she were a schoolteacher being falsely accused. Her face didn't change, not even when they read her rights. She looked at Tamera and whispered, "You think this ends with me? There are 5 more like me in this district alone." Tamera stepped closer. "Then I'll find them, one by one." The news broke that afternoon. Richmond school counselor exposed as imposter, FBI probes student trafficking ring. Black girls targeted in behavioral experiment. Whistleblower says district ignored red flags. Local security guard uncovers federal surveillance scheme inside public school. Tamera watched it all from her couch. Badge in her hand. Drive backed up 3 times. Jeremiah asleep on the floor beside his tower like a loyal dog. 2 weeks later, Nia Freeman was found alive in an abandoned safe house 3 counties over. She wouldn't speak at first, wouldn't make eye contact, but she clutched the security ID badge Tamera had given her the year before, the one that said, "You matter. Always." When Nia finally spoke, she whispered, "She said nobody would come for me." Tamera knelt down, her eyes full. "I did." The school board offered her a formal apology. The city offered her a medal. The feds offered her a job. She turned down all 3. Instead, she started her own organization, Project 2E, named after the hallway where the feed went dark. A watchdog group for black and brown girls in public schools. Because somewhere, in another city, another Rena was still smiling. But now, someone was watching her back. They didn't believe her because she didn't have a badge. But she didn't need one, just the truth. And the nerve to chase it. This story wasn't just about one case. It was about how quickly truth can vanish when assumptions replace evidence, and how unchecked authority becomes a weapon instead of a shield. It was about fear, how it twists judgment, silences witnesses, and turns policy into harm. But more than anything, it was about dignity and the fight to hold on to it. For every family who never got the apology. For every name that was buried under suspicion instead of cleared by justice. For every child forced to grow up the moment someone else decided they looked guilty. So if this story made you feel something, don't let it end with sympathy. Let it push you to ask harder questions, to challenge what's hidden, and to care before the sirens start. You don't need a badge to speak the truth. You just need to know when silence becomes complicated. If this story spoke to you, like, share, and comment, because conversations lead to awareness. And awareness? That's where justice begins.